I've not done anything preparing the next panel, which is hosted and organized by L.Schenker. Kara is competing with Wall Street Journal. You're leaving BusinessWeek. Well, you're a blogger now or a journalist still?
I give the same answer as Kara. I think that journalists are bloggers, and what I want to do is pioneer journalism 3.0.
Okay. Well, good luck with this, Informilo.com. And I'll let you introduce your amazing panel. I actually have to say that I originally suggested to Jennifer, maybe we could do a panel on why Europe does copycats. And Jennifer gave me a really hard time, and she was right to tell me, no, this is passé, forget it. You need to talk about copycats in the US and companies such as Vente Privée, in Europe, which are actually getting copied over there and successes, and I'm so thankful you did it. So I'll let you introduce your panel. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Are you going to stay up here? Or,
No, please.
Okay. So as Loic mentioned, the topic of our panel is European originals, and we're going to talk about innovation in Europe. A lot of the discussion about innovation is always centered around Silicon Valley, and people forget that here in Europe, the World Wide Web was invented here by Tim Berners-Lee. GSM was invented here. Although Apple invented, of course, the iPhone, the majority of the components, including the screen technology and the processor inside the iPhone, are European. And Lars Bak, a Danish guy, is the brains behind Google's Chrome JavaScript engine. So there is lots and lots of good innovation here, and we're very lucky today to have 4 of Europe's great entrepreneurs. And we're going to talk about, the things that they've innovated and how, in some of the cases, the Americans are now copying them. So I'd like to start with Jonas Birgersson. Jonas, you're 36 now. You've founded 4 companies, including B2, a broadband service provider that was sold to Telenor in 2005 for about $730 million. And now you're out to prove with your new company, ViaEuropa, that it's possible to offer consumers much higher internet speeds than those available in the United States for similar or lower prices, even though multiple operators share the same fiber network. So you now have, I don't know, over 70,000 customers in Sweden who get internet access speeds of 1 gigabit or more. And they pay comparable or even lower prices than what people pay to get just regular DSL lines in the United States. And your company employs technology from another company that you're involved in called Labs2 that lets consumers switch from one service provider to another literally at the click of a button. So, Jonas, let me start by asking, if you're right, what does that say about the arguments made by the US phone companies to regulators that the only way to justify the billions of dollars in cost is if rivals are prevented from having equal access to the network and offering competing media services over the pipe? Have the US phone companies been lying to regulators?
Well, basically, if they employ the same model that they have in the past, they have been lying. But the thing is, the model is just outdated. Because just think about it, why should we have one category of companies just to provide one cord into a house? We already have the utility companies providing, for example, electricity and water. Why not collect all of these basic passive utilities like pipes and fibers and electrical cables into one company and then put an open access model, that's what we propose, on top of that, so you get competition. Good for consumers, good for everybody except the telcos. So basically, they need to change or get out of the way.
So tell us how that's been working in Sweden so far. Have you been able to build a profitable business doing this?
Sure. ViaEuropa today is a profitable company. We have positive cash flow. And the interesting thing is, as you said, we're offering gigabit symmetrical bandwidth to ordinary households without oversubscriptions. And we're doing it at a price that is lower than most of you pay for DSL around Europe and the US. And this is very, very interesting because how we can do this is because we divide the value chain. The telecom tries to be the world's best company at every single discipline in a complete value chain, and I think that's not viable. So what we do is that we create a separation between the passive that we do together with partners and then we do the ecosystem on top, and everybody's invited on equal terms, and the end users decide who should be able to bring the services. It's a normal marketplace. It's just telecom that has screwed this up in the past.
Okay, so you're not building out the fiber network. You're just using the fiber that's owned by the cities, and you're building services on top of that. So can you export this model outside Sweden? Could this same model work in the United States, for example?
Yes, so this is the big thing. We're meeting some of the world's best analysts talking about what is happening to Telecom 3.0 as we talk about. And then they say, well, okay, they are agreeing that beyond any reasonable doubt, our model is really working, and it's the future model with one condition still. They say it's only working in Scandinavia so far. So that's what we're going to change. And we are today in deep dialogue, and we can't disclose yet, but we're very, very close to sign a long way from Scandinavia multi-million-dollar deals of building infrastructure on a national level that will be open access to everybody. And this is emerging markets countries. If these emerging markets goes ahead with the things that we're talking in dialogue about, then they would have a much, much better infrastructure than US, for an example.
So, okay, that's great. You have this possibility to build out a national network somewhere else, but will we also see this model in the United States and possibly in other European countries?
Well, definitely in other European countries and in the United States, because, I mean, just think about what you can do, these kind of creative people can do with a gigabit symmetrical, and if you can get this to some countries and you cannot get it in the US, that would be a huge problem for the US in the long run. So you need the better infrastructure, and I think that there was a president elected, talked about change in infrastructure, so I think that we're going the right way.
Okay, so how do you, as a company, ViaEuropa, scale up and move outside? How do you raise funding in this kind of environment? I know you were talking to some investment bank, and those people just disappeared overnight. So where do you go from here? How do you fund this?
Yeah, but this was the good thing for us, because we were on the wrong thought pattern. We were going to raise a lot and lots of money to invest in infrastructure and build this ourselves. What we're doing now is that because of this crisis, we talk to utility companies outside, because we thought that we had to prove more and then talk to utility companies to scale it globally. But now we just skipped a step and talk to the utility companies, and they're very, very interested. And also you have to remember, passive infrastructure, fiber or electrical cable or a duct or water pipe, is something that you write off over 30 to 100 years. So all of these companies factor in at least 5 depressions in the cycle of the infrastructure. So nobody in our sector is talking about not investing. And in the emerging market sector, it is, do we invest in infrastructure or not? If we don't, we have nothing. So they have to invest. And just one quick, interesting point. If you build symmetrical, true broadband, if you increase the penetration in a country by 1%, you get 3% GDP back. These are the best numbers that we have to the moment. So, I mean, for a society, it's a phenomenal business case. That's why there's no lack of capital.
Can you talk to us a little bit about how it actually works in Sweden today? So say I'm living in an apartment house in a Swedish city, and I want to have this service. How does it work, and how quickly does it, how quick is it to hook up?
Yeah, so basically what happens is that you live in this ViaEuropa house, you have a gigabit connection on the wall, you plug in your laptop, and then it asks you, same as you do in Wi-Fi in airports, these are the different providers. You choose a provider, you see 10 meg is 20 euros, 30 euros is 100 meg, and then 50 euros is a gigabit. And you click what you want, you take the provider that you want, and 3 seconds later, boom, you have this provider.
And what if I'm not happy with the service?
This is the cool part. So when you get a complaint, you have a problem, you can call the customer care department, but that's not helping. But you can also go into the portal and you can change over to another provider. So if you have a problem with your ISP, you're just one click away from changing to another provider. And this is a cool thing. This has led in Sweden to that some service providers have 2 help desks. One help desk for normal people with 18-month contracts, and another help desk for people with choice. And I can guess which one you would rather like to call.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you very much, Jonas, and we'll look forward to seeing your model spread to other countries in Europe and hopefully someday to the US,
Thanks.
Which I think is still somewhat of a broadband backwater.
Yes.
Okay, next up we have young German entrepreneur Klaas Kersting. You're only 28, and you're behind Gameforge, a German company in the hot area of massively multiplayer online games. The company has more than 65 million players in 72 countries. It's offered in 50 languages, and you have 25 different browser-based games. The company was profitable from day one, and I believe you expect to rake in 100 million euros in revenues in 2008. So, Klaas, tell us what differentiates your company from competitors like BigPoint, Angstrom, and Artix Entertainment. What makes you a European original?
Okay, hi everyone, thanks for the introduction. When I think about competitors, I see two lines of them. So on the one hand, we see the ones you mentioned, BigPoint, Angstrom Online, where there are strong differences in, first of all, the aim, where we go to the market with a product as good as possible, a game that just intrigues the player, and think about monetization later. And that's the whole issue. When you have great content, the monetization will work one day. You just have to be patient. Other thing is definitely the internationality. So we really want to provide our games in every native language there is on this planet as soon as possible. When you think of our target group, it's male 15 to 25, so the typical core gamer. And when you think about those intrigued in social games, they're always about communication, about coordination, about speaking with another, solving problems together. It's about being able to talk to one another. And when you think about our core target group, they know one language, and that's their own. That's the main two things that differentiate us from the companies in the same sector. When I think about the other line of companies that our competitors with, and I aim a little higher on that, so there I think of EA, of Ubisoft, of Activision Blizzard. There are definitely the internationality again. So when you look at traditional gaming companies, they think of the world as US and a few countries in Europe. And a few years ago, they discovered there are a lot of people in China too. But that's just not the reality. We came to countries that are far beyond these very strong limits, and basically invented the gaming industry there. We were the first ones to introduce games in that language, and thus the result. The company is basically exploding. We are growing by more than 300% every year, still growing by that rate, and there is no end in sight.
How challenging was it to get your technology and your company to scale? Because you've got something like, what, 500,000 users at any given time on your site?
Yeah, nowadays it's 700-something thousand. It's not really a real problem. It sounds very, very complicated. It's of course a solid technology that's behind everything, but scalability in the internet is no real problem at all. You just have to use redundant systems. And when every single part, every small part is independent from all the other ones, there is no problem when one fails. So it's no real problem.
A number of people believe that it's not possible to build a global, sustainable technology company from Europe. Are you going to stay here?
Why not? I love Europe. So we founded the company in Karlsruhe in Germany, where basically no big company is. There are United Internet and 1&1, so two very, very large IT companies that have been founded in Europe. Actually, a majority of our management staff has been involved with them. This is another reason why we are easy scalable. So we are able to acquire very talented, very experienced people from the web industry, which basically is very close to what we are doing. And I love Karlsruhe. You can do everything in one place when you're talking about such a virtual company as we are. And we will definitely open local offices in a few countries, but not to do the real development work and stuff. So we believe in our teams, in having all the knowledge that's critical to growing the company further in-house and in our own control, and that's the way it's going to stay.
Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to introduce another very successful European entrepreneur from France, Jacques Antoine Granjon, who's the CEO and co-founder of Vente Privée. It's a 7-year-old French company that holds invitation-only closeout sales over the internet to help brands get rid of overstock. They attract 1 million unique visitors a day who buy on average about 100,000 items every single day. And they sell everything from champagne to baby clothes to small household appliances. And everything's sold while they last at fixed prices of 50 to 70% below retail. They've got about 1,000 major brands working with them, including Givenchy, Dolce & Gabbana, Cacharel, Armani Casa. And the company is starting to be copied around the world. Since they launched, there is about 70 or 80 copycat companies that have launched in France, dozens more across Europe, and 15 copycat companies in the United States. Jacques-Antoine, can you tell us how much you're going to make in revenues this year?
This year we're gonna make about 600 million euros of sales at the end of the year, 610 million euros of sales.
Okay, so 600 million in sales this year. The company was bootstrapped with the money of the co-founders from the beginning, and you did not take venture capital. Why not?
It's important to understand that Vente Privée is not especially an internet company. My background is discount. So my first company, I founded it 24 years ago when I was 22, and Vente Privée is just an evolution with an internet tool. We just used internet as a tool to increase our growth. So we didn't need money because we had the expertise of discount, 20 years of expertise when we started Vente Privée 7 years ago. And then we had no competition because we invented a new model to sell and to value the best ways, the inventories of the brands. So we had time because we had no competitions. And we didn't need money because we had a company behind who was a smaller company because we were doing about 35 million euros and we had 100 persons working there. So we had time to build our model and to understand the new process we needed to invent for the company. And then when it increased, when it started in 2004, 2005, when we started from 2-3 million euros to 110 in 2 years, which was very big growth. We had the money because the model of the business generates a lot of cash because we sell before we buy. So you have the money to grow. And if we don't have this money, we don't be able to grow as quick as we did.
I believe in 2007, though, you did sell 20% of the company for something like around $1 billion US to a private equity firm in the United States called Summit Partners. Yes. Now, are you using that money to try to expand across Europe?
No, because this was a sale, so the money is private and it's in my account, personal account, or my partner's account. So the company doesn't need money. The company has a lot of cash to grow. So it was just a question of I had all my assets in my company, so we had a very large offer, and for more than $1 billion. So we sold 20% just to work with some people who would help us just grow and become a more European-sized company with all the process. Maybe we're not able to do it alone.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your expansion plans. Where are you outside of France now, and where do you go from here?
Okay, we do about 95% of our turnover this year only in France. Okay. And we opened 2 years ago Germany and Spain, and we did open in July Italy and the UK. Our market is not the e-shoppers. Our market is brands. Where are the brands, and where do they have enough inventories so we can open the site on another country? For example, if we would be able to sell all the inventories of European brands in France, we would not have opened the other countries. Okay. It's just a question of going where you have brands which have enough quantities to sell on these countries, so they have inventories, 2, 3, 5, 10% sometimes when they miss a collection or something like that. And then we're here. That's why we choose 5 countries in Europe where we can do exactly the same growth than in France. That's why we are not open in Belgium. That's why we're not open in Luxembourg. We are not open in Portugal. And normally we won't open. We will open in those countries only if we have so many inventories that we need to have more e-shoppers, because the problem is we have enough e-shoppers because every day we have more than 1 million people rushing on the site and less products than we could sell, because it's a offer under domain product model, sorry.
Okay, but by the time you moved into those 5 European countries, you had copycats who had started up business. For example, in Germany, there is Brands for Friends, which our next speaker, Lukasz Gadowski, helped start up. And so you haven't had as easy of a ride than you did in France. How are you coping with the local competition in Europe?
Okay, in France we were alone for a long time because the copycats came later. And normally they didn't come from the discount business. So they didn't have the experience of the relationship with the brands. In other countries, the copycat came 2 years ago, and now we are facing a different competition because in those countries, for example, those people are local, and they do less than what we do as sales, but they are local. So Spanish people, they want to work with Spanish people. German people, they prefer to work with German people, and so on. So we need to be more local, because behind the screen, we have people working, we have commercials, and a lot of logistics, and a lot of things, and we need to be more local to be accepted like a local VP, and not only a company which is from Paris and does everything in Europe from Paris. So our strategy is to come local. We are opening an office in Barcelona. We're going to open an office in Düsseldorf, in Milan, in London, and we're going to be very local. So there is competition, but it's good. It's interesting.
Okay, what about the US market? You've got 15 copycats there now. Do you think about entering the US market? Okay,
the market in Europe for us is very, very big. And with the growth we've been living, it's incredible growth, 600 million of sales, and we deliver every day. Last week, we deliver every day more than 80,000 parcels every day from our own factories and so on. So the growth was crazy, and we can do the same growth in each country that I told you. So we can do, if we are good, if we can make the challenge, we can do 1.5 billion or 2 billion euros of turnover in a few years. So it's quite a big challenge to do. So Europe is our market now, because if we want to go to the US, it's completely new, because it's not a question of opening a site. It's a question of going to the brands, knowing what they do with their inventories, going to see Ralph Lauren, and the market in the US is very mature about discount. You have huge companies that are doing billions of sales, and those companies, they have thousands of shops, and that's the competition there. So it will take a long time. So we have to start slowly in the US, maybe one day. But now our market is Europe.
And well, as you say, you're not doing so badly here. I believe you just registered your 1 billionth user on your site about a week ago, right?
Yes, 1 billion person would subscribe to a sales, yes, 1 billion person.
Congratulations.
So it's a big shop.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, last but certainly not least, I'd like to introduce Lukasz Gadowski, who is, as mentioned before, Brands for Friends, which is a Vente Privée competitor in Germany, is just one of the companies that Lukasz has helped to set up through a new investment vehicle called Team Europe Ventures. And I'm hoping that Lukasz will tell us more about those investments, but first let me briefly explain where he got the money to invest in other people's companies. Lukasz is the founder of Spreadshirt, a successful company that lets you design and print your T-shirts online. And he's also co-founder of Studio VZ, a German Facebook clone that sold for around 100 million euros in 2007 to Holzbrink. So within your new stable of companies, Lukasz, you have some that are originals and some that, like Panfu, which are European versions of American companies. Now, I'm always hearing guys in the Valley say that there are few, if any, good companies here in Europe. You seem to think otherwise. Can you tell us why, and give us some examples of the kind of innovations you're seeing and the kind of companies that you're investing in these days?
So maybe so what I do, like with Team Europe Ventures, we do two things. So one is we set up new companies, so we don't necessarily always invest, but we help to set up new companies. Yeah, so we help to set them up from the scratch. We look for a management team, we look for distribution power, we look for financing, don't necessarily finance it ourselves. And this is one thing, and the other thing is the kind of investment arm of the business where we do early stage investments. And in the cases where we help to set up business, it not always, but often end up being copycats. Because of when you set up something on your own without running it yourself, that is, you look for an external management team, it's in the nature of things that you can't be too innovative, because when you're too innovative, you will get no management, okay? Managements are by definition, yeah, all first-time entrepreneurs are, yeah, not that much into risk. So we try to do no-brainer business models, we call it. And this may happen to be an innovation. Like one example is what we did is a company called Absolventa. It's a job portal for graduates. Yeah, I haven't seen it somewhere else, but it's a very simple, straightforward business model. You sign up graduates, and you sign up companies, and the companies pay for hiring the graduates. Yeah? So this is not a copycat, but a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer that companies pay for it. It's a no-brainer that students want it. So it's more or less all simple math. So we try to avoid business model risk. And how to avoid business model risk? You often end up looking like at what works in other markets. And this is, for example, why Vont.privé, with its incredible success, attracts so many copycats. Yeah? Or I'm sure that Klaas company is also like have a lot of followers or in this space. Yeah. And in terms of like, if there's innovation in Europe, I think we see a lot of innovation in Europe. But here at this conference, I mean, it's the web, so we talk mainly about the internet. In the internet space, it's much harder for Europe to be innovative than the US, just because of the simple fact that the US is ahead. It's ahead with the learning curve in the internet, kind of like how much experience they have. Klaas mentioned that, like, for them it's instrumental. What enables them to grow is like the access to good management, which is already experienced. So we have yeah, much more of that in the US. This is one thing. Another thing is the US is also ahead in terms of the usage of the internet, how much broadband is available, and how many years people are used to use the internet. Yeah? So they will use it differently. So they're just ahead on the learning curve, which makes it just less likely that there are great innovations in Europe, because of the US will just be faster. So, but that doesn't mean that there are no innovations. And here we have two examples of very innovative companies, and there are also more like yeah. Or, for example, when you look now at the mobile internet, where Europe will lead, and also like what seems like a copycat isn't always a copycat, because of like just ideas come up independently. Yeah, ideas evolve when people have problems that they solve, and so for example, with my first successful company, Spreadshirt.com, where we print T-shirts on demand and also allow people to have their own T-shirt shop on their websites. This was an idea, yeah, born like kind of independently of any role models. Yeah, this was an idea that was developed because of I was consulting a textile printing company and just like seeing what are the problems, what are the technological possibilities, and up came the idea. But there have already been companies in the US around that before doing something like that. Yeah, so. It's a little bit of a learning curve thing.
Okay. Now you are involved in helping set up companies, not just in Western Europe, but also Eastern Europe. What sort of opportunities are you seeing there?
So Eastern Europe is interesting because of it lacks some of the, I mean, like it's different in a few areas. One thing is lacks some of the infrastructure, so it's even more farther behind in the learning curve. There, and also it lacks some infrastructure that is typically necessary to run e-commerce companies. Yeah, so for example, the folks who want to copy Vont.privé in Eastern Europe will have it much harder because of, like, for example, in Russia, There's just no, there are no payment systems in Russia, and there's also no logistics infrastructure. Yeah, so it's to the extent that people tell like, hey, the Russian post will lose 1/3 of the packages. Okay, so I guess that's not really true, but shows how far behind it is. So and I think those are also the opportunities in Eastern European markets, like to solve these infrastructural problems, to come up with better payment systems for them and with better infrastructure. This is one thing, and the other thing that I see that in those countries, the mobile internet is just more important because of it allows people to leapfrog kind of the stationary internet. And this is what you see, like in the mobile world, you see like a few of the developing countries are leading the usage.
Okay, thanks. Now we just have a couple minutes left, so I'd like to ask each one of you on the panel, because we've got a lot of entrepreneurs out here in the audience. I'd like you to just take 1 minute to talk about what you've learned as an entrepreneur that might help the young entrepreneurs out here in the audience. Jonas, do you want to start?
Sure. My basic learning was that I was working with the Swedish Telecom as a consultant. I was working in 93 to 98 trying to create change within inside the company. And we had all of the backing of the management, but we couldn't make this change. So then when they said no, finally, to build a national fiber optical infrastructure, that was what we proposed, we took the binder, we started a company, and we made it ourselves. So we said to our old colleagues, we're going to challenge you head on. We're 2.5 people, and you are 100,000 employees, and we're going to challenge you head on to build a fiber optical network in parallel with the old things that you have. And of course, they laughed. But then when we created this new company and we sent the first press release, they actually, the thing that I couldn't sell internally in 5 years, within 24 hours, the Swedish Telecom were saying, we're also going to sell 10 megabit symmetrical for 20 euros. So if it doesn't work inside a company, inside an organization that you're working with, make sure that you can bring the offer to the market itself and let the market decide, not a single boss somewhere. So don't be afraid. It's not worth it. Just go ahead, get it out of the market, and let the market decide if it's good or not.
Great. Thanks, Jonas. Klaas?
After having the startup covered, maybe a few on the day-to-day job. Two main learnings on my side. First of all, be pragmatic and rethink things. So there is no real truth. There is a truth for today. Maybe it will last until tomorrow, but you can bet 3 days after you thought about it, it's totally wrong, and there is a better way to do it and a better idea to do it. And being pragmatic, just solve the problems you have today and don't think that much about consequences or the long term.
Thank you. I think that's great advice. Lukasz?
So for first-time entrepreneurs, like a learning. So I think what is really interesting when we look at the panel here, I'm not completely sure about you, but like all of our successes have been built without taking any money. Yeah, so all the 3 companies here are bootstrapped. And I think this is a very good learning. And I'm not sure, but yeah, started about the same time, so they didn't necessarily start it in very good economic times. So I think one learning or advice is like, if you can avoid it, avoid to take money, okay? And if your business model needs a lot of money in the internet, maybe think about a different business model. And if you really love your business model and you need some money, take it from people who give it to you and not to the business model. So take it from people who trust in you as a person. And then maybe this will be not a lot, but yeah, try to avoid it if you can.
Okay, thanks. Jacques, Antoine, what advice do you have for the entrepreneurs in the audience?
Yes, it's always difficult to give advices, but Antoine Ribou is the founder of Danone. He said that a good entrepreneur has to have instinct, then he needs to have imagination, and he needs to have courage, to be brave. So instinct, it's important. For example, in my business, when I was very young, 22, 23, and I started the business of discount, I had the instinct that there was money to make in this business. My only idea is to make money to take girls out for dinner. You know, that was, I started with no money. So it was a business, just buying low, selling a little bit higher. And then imagination came when you grow and you say, okay, I'm going to do this kind of business because I like it. It's trading inventories of brands, and I will develop my business. And then imagination make you develop it and do it your style, which means dreaming of the way it should be better, it should be more profitable for the people working in your company, for the customers, and that's imagination. And then with the imagination, you come to innovation, like when the net arrived, I didn't know how to use it in my company. And then one day, we had this idea to use it the way we do it now. So that's imagination. And courage, braveness is very important because it's easy to talk when you're successful. When you're not successful, doors are always locked or more difficult. So you need to have someone who helps you. And for me, I had my partners who help you. I'm not kind of a lone entrepreneur. I'm always been doing that with partners. And that's very important. That gave me the courage to do it. And then the last thing I would say is that the most important thing is always to hire people that are stronger than you and have more skills than you in what they do, and then to manage them so they keep the desire and they are very good working with you. So always hire people that are stronger than you and you become stronger.
Great, thank you so much. Could we have a big round of applause for these guys? They're rock stars.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm really proud to be European. Thank you very much. And seeing that there is so much innovation in Europe and that we don't even have to do copycats. So congratulations. Jennifer, good luck in your new startup. What's the name again?
Informilo.
Informilo. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Thank you.